YouTube, and I'm still trying to make it work out. So, what are we doing here tonight? We are doing updates on the Nancy Guthrie case, and we have something new tonight. There is a new case out of Barcelona, Spain, but why is it important to us? Because it is a student out of Chicago, Illinois, and he's a college student. His name is James Gracey, but he goes by Jimmy, so that's like his nickname. And he's a student out of Alabama, University of Alabama. So it's like UA, but again, I've been taught that for all the college, people that follow college and stuff like that, that I was wrong by saying UA because that could be like University of Akron, or there's some, for all of the college teams that go against one another, I have to be very clear by saying this is an Alabama student, like Bama, apostrophe Bama. This is a University of Alabama student. He's missing. He went to Barcelona, Spain for his spring break trip, and whatever happened there, they were partying over the weekend, and then he never came back, and they have no information. But I will get to that at the end of this little live here. Right now, I want to go over the Nancy Guthrie updates because that's what we've been working on during the length of this, and where I kind of started with doing my lives. So let's start with that. Where are we with Nancy Guthrie right now? So it is March 18th. So where does that bring us? Well, technically that brings us on what I believe is day 46 since anybody has seen Miss Nancy alive, but technically this says it's day 45 since, the investigation has started, since she was declared missing by, when she was reported missing. So, okay, day 45, but it actually has been 46 days since anybody has seen Miss Nancy alive. So what is happening now? Well, according to the sources and what's going on in the news and media and all that, FBI has now come back to the neighborhood and is now coming back to the locations that they have visited in the beginning of this case. So going back to the week 1, week 2, and they're recanvassing the exact same areas that they were during the beginning of this case. And they're revisiting the same neighbors, the same areas, the same, and they're asking the same questions. All of that is kind of being retouched on, which is, for some people, they might be like, well, why are they going back to square one? Well, a lot of times, like, think of it like, if you can't find something that you're looking for, and I'm not pulling this from anywhere, I'm not stealing anybody's material. This was on Brian Enton's, uh, I watched it on his YouTube, I think yesterday, and this was a very good analogy that was used on his stuff, on his content, that if you're looking for something that you can't find, you keep going back to the original place, right? You keep if you lost a set of keys, or if you lost, anything, your glasses or whatnot, you keep going back to, well, did I leave them over here? Did I leave them over there? You keep trying to track it back. So, and if you can't find it in those places, you're going to continue to go back like if it's been a month and you still can't find your keys or your glasses or, anything, after a month or so, you're going to still retrace your steps from the beginning. You're still going to go back. Well, where was I when I first lost them? Let me just double check. Let me just make sure. And I think at this point, it's exactly what's happening. I think they're just double, triple, quadrupling, checking. And something that I mentioned, if anybody, for those of you that are still sticking around and followed me from the, beginning when I was in Tucson and following this case in front of Nancy's home and right there on, on the location, I literally said, and this was 3 weeks into the case. It wasn't even when we hit 30 days when Nancy was missing or any of that. And I said, once we hit 30 days, it is just, it's a notion that is known across law enforcement, and I wasn't saying that it was going to happen for this case. I was just saying typically this is what happens, right? And I said now that we're approaching the 30 days, what could happen typically is they offset it to, team B, or, now that it's been 30 days, we're going to give it to, it's still our number one team. Don't worry, we're not giving it to our special teams or whatever. We're giving it to our one of our best teams here, but it's going to be team B because we need team A over here. And so they kind of offset it to team B, but team B might not be like a bad thing. Team B just might be a very fresh set of eyes that is now looking at this case in a different angle. Or maybe there's one person on team B that just has a unique mind or a different strategical, concept, and is like, well, I've been waiting until this case got in front of me because I have some angles that I really wanted to, put before you to approach, and now we're going to look at it this way, which it's not a bad thing. It's always a good thing to have more ideas, especially from the FBI stance or enforcement stance or police stance when they're bringing in their own special teams to look on the case. So if they're putting separate eyes on this and it's the next team over, so what? Let them do it. Let's have whatever eyes they can give, since, from what we know, they're not allowing other search teams look at the case. So let them have team B, team C, team D, Q, whatever, look at this case. All eyes are extra eyes and eyes that have not looked at it thus far. So in my opinion, I think it's a great thing. So whatever, if they're all coming back and speaking to the same neighbors and retracing steps and asking the same kind of questions, it's a good thing. In my mind, it's a good thing. Another thing that I want to point out is, another chatter thing here is, well, why is it only the same neighbors? Why are they only going to these same type, same households? And does that mean that they're just focused on this one particular circumference of an area? Well, then if you look at what neighbors they're actually questioning, one could be here, one could be all the way over there, one could be down here, one could be down over there. So kind of when really people, like dive in and try to figure out where these exact neighbors are, I think they will see that these neighbors aren't really in some specific circumference to make sense of it. And so to that, I want to say, for that reason, my opinion is they're speaking to these neighbors or maybe touching back or touching base continuously with these neighbors, because we also have to remember not everybody was very willing and forthcoming to respond to law enforcement, FBI, police, whatever, agents, whoever was trying to, get information here. Some neighbors just weren't available. Some neighbors had the wrong contact info. Some neighbors wanted nothing to do with it. Some neighbors weren't, just there was an array of reasons why some were able to be contacted, and there was reasons why some weren't. And then there was, it goes along A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Y. There was different avenues of these neighbors that were like why there are neighbors that are really, really in contact and some that are definitely not. But I also think that's not something to be honed in on and looked at from above, like a satellite thing, and saying, oh, well, let's make a map out of this and let's now, kind of not, I don't mean harass, but like, don't take it upon what these neighbors are saying and that they are a map to Nancy's abduction, if that makes sense. Like maybe look at it as these are the neighbors that are willing to speak. but I could be wrong, but that's just my humble opinion in this certain case. So that's about that. Um, so the other thing that we know that they are asking the neighbors and, people that are familiar with this area and terrain is they are now interested in the construction in the area, the construction workers, the houses that have had work on them, stuff like that. So it's not to say that they weren't interested in that to begin with. It's just saying now that they have more interest in it or they're trying to gather more information on it. So to say that they weren't getting information on this to begin with, I cannot say that. But what I can say is now they're gathering more information or they have a higher interest in the construction that has been happening in the other homes in the area, which good. I'm glad. I'm glad that they're maybe paying more attention to the ins and outs of the area and who's working there and who can be employed and contracted, ins and outs. So this is something I don't know. So what I do know is that they're looking into the employees and who's been contracted, this and that. So this is my own opinion now here on what I'm going to say. This is something which I'm hoping that they're going to now pull together is I'm hoping they're going to get the contracted logs of who was working in the neighborhood in November, in December, in January, in February, and then who suddenly had to leave, who suddenly had to dip out and peace out, and I have an emergency, and I have this, and who was really good friends, or who started to be friends, or who, started to catch a ride with so and so and stuff like that. Maybe they can catch the dynamics of people like that and who dipped out around the time of this abduction, kidnapping, robbery gone bad, so on and so forth. So if that's the reasoning for this, then yeah, God bless them, Godspeed. Let's go for it. Let's, like, what can we do to help? Let's do it. Well, how can we help you? How can we help pull these logs faster for you so we can get an answer faster because time is a wasting. And there is a woman who is 84 years old and we don't know where she is. Is she dead? Is she alive? Is she hurt? Is she asking about her family? Like, is she wondering what's going on? We don't know. So can the law enforcement give us a little, what can we do to help you here? Because on one side of their mouth, they're saying, everybody's okay. And then on the other side, they're saying, they're saying this was a planned attack. It was targeted. And then they're saying, but nobody's safe. I mean, which is it, right? If for those that remember back to the Idaho case, for the day that the crime happened, there was a hold on all the students for saying nobody can leave, all of this, and then it was lifted around 5 o'clock, saying, "Oh, everything is okay." We know that the house was possibly targeted, but all the students, you guys are safe. Go and do as you may, and have fun around the campus, and go and it's Thanksgiving, if you have to travel, whatnot. But did that give anybody security? Did that give anybody the peace of mind saying, oh, just this house was targeted, but you just put a hold on the whole community saying nobody go anywhere, nobody do anything. But now you're saying just a house. What is it? Like, and now it almost seems like a mimic of it, of now in Tucson in Pima County, it's like, oh, don't worry, the community is safe, but at any point you guys could be targeted too. Which what's anybody supposed to go by? Because up until January 31st, the Catalina Foothills was a very safe retirement community where, the residents over there literally have spoken and said, we didn't even lock our doors. We felt safe. We rested, rest assured. We slept with our cars open. We had little foo-foo dogs for a reason. It was some had bigger dogs, of course, but it was a safe community and they moved there for those reasonings. So that being that. Oh, also another thing, there's neighbors, and I think I said this the other day. Yeah, I'll find it. Um, that the neighbor right next door, I believe next door, 2 doors down, said between 2 and 2:30, they have larger dogs or dogs, so I can't clarify if it was 1 or 2, but I do know at least 1. Their dog started barking, like in a very panicked fashion. It was out of the norm, between 2 and 2:30 in that evening. So it was in the night of January 31st going into February 1st, and their dogs started barking rambunctiously and caused that household panic, to where they went, and the dog was barking in the direction of Nancy's home and in the direction of her backyard. And so they actually went and pulled their footage, because they have cameras going in the front of their house, going into the side of the house, and to the back of their house, which, would reflect Nancy's home. And the very next morning or whatnot, they pulled to see why the dog was kind of barking and whatnot. And I think this is where the kind of the pattern went of, they could pull their front yard footage and see it perfectly fine. They could pull their side of their house footage and see that perfectly fine. But one thing they could not see was the back footage, which was pointing towards Miss Nancy's property, and where the dog was barking aggressively or panicked. And that was the footage that was kind of scrambled or skewed. So again, there's a little something. One second. I got it wet. Wet the whistle, the nozzle. Okay. So, and also some of these neighbors also say that, so 2 dates have come to surface, and that's January 11th and January 24th. We've spoken about both dates if you followed other stuff that I've put up, my other lives. And so January 11th, from what I understood, was a date that other neighbors have seen somebody in the area kind of walking around. It was one neighbor that she was getting ready in the morning, and her bathroom window kind of goes to the front road there where Nancy's home is as well. And she noticed a gentleman with a lower cap and just kind of who looked out of place, and noticed him walking by. And that kind of gave her an uneasy feeling. And there were some other kind of things that happened on January 11th. From what I understand, there was some Nextdoor app messages posted during that time on January 11th. And then we have January 24th. So that's a new date that kind of came to us now. And so what does January 24th have to do with this now? So I guess it's kind of the same thing, that there's some footage with some neighbors that have pulled, some of their stuff and have been looking through it. And now January 24th has shown them some conflicting footage, to where they're looking through it, and they see some stuff that doesn't match up with what life should be like over there, or things have come up, and maybe there's stuff from the FBI and police that they already know, and with the footage that the neighbors are giving them, and they're putting that together, and they're like, oh yeah, we can now put this together. Also, what I can say is that the 24th, one of the FBI agents actually sat with a neighbor and wanted them to go through their digital, their cameras from their household, and look through it with the agent sitting right next to them, and go through all their surrounding cameras of their house, while the agent sat there and went through each angle, just to make sure they didn't miss anything. So to me, that shows some interest, and some unique, dire interest. But we've thought that on a lot of things here, haven't we? I mean, there was gloves, there was this, there was that, but that's just what we have right now. So That being that, what I want to go into is the latest information that we have also regarding suspects, which in the beginning or this whole time, there has been a lot of conflicting information or a lot of chatter that perhaps there could be family members involved or, some offset from a family member or angry, somebody could be angry or this, or there could be a stalker or anything. There could be one sister or one daughter or one son or this. There's so many theories being thrown around about this, that, right? And then all of a sudden we hear from the MSN, like mainstream media, that polygraphs were issued and everybody passed the polygraph. Well, who stop the press? Everybody passed the polygraph. So that means we're all supposed to be like, well, good night. It's over. I'm done. Sayonara. Case is closed. Everybody passed the polygraph, right? I mean, right? I'm telling you. Oh, no. Big, fat, no. I mean, let them say what they want to say. I'm not taking anything away from anybody that has reported on this. But let's let's just inform ourselves on what a polygraph really means, right? So, when a polygraph test is issued, it is, and again, I'm not just like I haven't gone to college for this. I haven't, I don't have firsthand research on this. I'm pulling this stuff from information that I have, read online. I watch stuff. I'm reading stuff. So I'm learning as I go. So if you see that this is a repeat from somewhere, well, I'm finding this out as I go along too. So, don't come at me. So what I'm learning is that, first of all, a polygraph test is what we should all know is a tool used by law enforcement. And it's a tool given to a not so much a suspect, but a person that is part of a case or, whatever, as we can see here, these family members. And it's what we may perceive, it's a tool used to kind of take them out of the suspect alignment, right? But now let's kind of think of how this may go. So if they're giving this tool to, like, let's say I got arrested for shoplifting this pen, okay? So I get arrested for shoplifting this pen, and they're going to bring me in and they're going to be like, hey, Alina, we want to give you or we really think you did this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Me, of all people, from Walmart's, you think I'm going to shoplift this pen? How do you think it got here? It didn't. Oh, I paid for it. What are you talking about? And they're going to be like, can we polygraph you just to put this to rest so we can move on? We got so many other cases and everyone's, on us. And there's all these other people that stole pens that look just like it because they look like this, they look like this. And we don't know, but we know that you walked away with this one. So how are we going to extinguish this? And how are we going to put this to bed? And so I'm like, all right, bring me in for the polygraph. And so they bring me in, and I'm not sitting there with an FBI agent or a police officer. I'm just sitting there with the polygrapher. That's it. It's just me and the guy that performs the test. So, and he's instructed by the agent. So he knows what's up too. And so he can see me there, and I might be like, ugh, man, whatever. And he'll be like, hey, Alina, what's wrong? Is there anything that I can do to ease your, nervousness? And I could be like, no, I'm good. What do you have for me? And what they do, the polygrapher, is they will tell you the questions that they're going to ask you. So he will then tell me, well, I have 5 questions for you that I'm going to ask you. And they're going to be, is blue your favorite color? Is light blue your favorite color? Are you interested in scribble pens? And do you often steal? And did you steal this pen? Right? I think that's 5. And so I'll be like, oh, okay. So those are the 5 questions you're going to pose to me. And he's going to be like, yeah, why? Are you good with those? And I'll be like, yeah, I think I'm good with all of them except the first 2. When you said, is blue my favorite color? Can you say, is green my favorite color? Because I feel like when you say, is blue my favorite color, and because I did steal a blue pen, oh shit, did I just say I stole a blue pen? No. But I'm thinking I'm just in the room with a polygrapher. There's no agents in here. And that's all done by cause. Like that's by matter, right? And so then I'm like, can you make that so is green your favorite color instead of blue? And polygrapher is going to say, oh, of course. If that's going to make you more comfortable, then yes, we will definitely make that green is your favorite color. And so then they changed the test for me to make me more comfortable. But what are they doing on the side? What are they doing? They're taking notes and they're saying, so person in chair said, hey, we need to adjust questions because they got really nervous about da 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 da, right? And they're gonna jot that down and have that as part of their, we got to think about this. And then, as they're asking me the questions, and if I cross my legs or uncross my legs, or if I'm holding the pen, or if I just do that, that's a nervousness. That's this or that or that. But if I just sit there, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then at the end, if I say, well, did I pass? Did I fail? They're going to say, well, we don't know. We have to get it read. It's just like when you get x-rays done, when you're at a facility and you get, you have to have something figured out and you're like, well, how did it look? And they're like, well, we're just the ones clicking the buttons saying, go over here and hold your breath, when we just press the button. But we're not the readers. We're not the radiologists. You have to now wait a few days until you have your follow-up, and then you'll find out how it was read. So they're not the readers, but do they know? Yeah. Oh, they know. They really know. So it's kind of like a play, and it's used as a tool. And what a lot of these people don't realize as they're being, polygraphed is they think it's a tool. It's their tool, so like if I'm being questioned for this pen, and let's say they say, oh, you passed the polygraph, and I'm going to walk out to all my buddies out there, and I'm going to be like, yeah, homies, I just passed my polygraph about my blue pen. And like thinking that the polygraph was my tool to get myself off of being accused of stealing, I'm all wrong, aren't I? Because now I'm thinking that the polygraph was my own like justification to get off of being accused of stealing, but it was never my tool. It was never mine. It's what law enforcement used for their own case. And for anybody that thinks it's theirs, they're wrong. And I hope I'm making sense on that. So with that being said, law enforcement, FBI, all of that uses these tests, these polygraphs, all of that to get more of an assessment of how they're going to perceive and how they're going to walk into these things versus what the actual result is. So sure, right now, what we are hearing, through mainstream media and all that is everybody passed. But honestly, it's more of a continuum, and it's more of like an assessment on how they're going to continue to act during this entire thing. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just trying to point out the facts. That's all, honestly, I'm trying to do. So, with that being said, moving on. I meant to get a little prop for this, and I didn't. So let's just hope I can do it with what I have in front of me. Let me see. Hold on. Excuse me. All right. I think I'll be able to do it with this. Okay. So here's the other thing. So a lot of things one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is the video of when the perpetrator went to Miss Nancy's home, and when they walked up to the house and walked up to the doorway, and there's the camera, and they went to go grab the handle. And what was first? Like, what was first, the chicken or the egg? The handle or the camera? The bushes in the back or the camera? The bushes in the back or the door handle? Which one happened? What was the whole, how did it work out? Well, I watched it over and over and over again. And okay, here's my assessment. This person walked up, and as they walked up, I'll do it here and here. As they walked up and they went to grab the handle first. And then they retracted and kind of looked. And we know there's windows. We know there's windows on the side of Miss Nancy's doorway. Could there have been somebody there? I really don't know. But then they retracted their hand and went to the camera, which was right next to it, right next to the doorway. And they realized they had to obscure the footage, right? So then they were like, oh, shoot. And they didn't even know which way to turn, because this was now a surprise, because they already had their meaning of direction. They already had their purpose. And I think that's very telling, that their hand was on the handle, ready to turn and pull it open. So now, things that we've been hearing in the last 24 hours from other sources is that this door is a safety door, and that this door is like this wrought iron, steel security door that is there for the purpose of safety. It's like a added safety measure, all of that, right? Maybe. I really can't say if that's truly what it is. But what I can say is that that door has been there probably for 10 years, maybe 20. That door has been there for a long time. And for people that live in the desert area and in developments like that, they will definitely understand that type of door, the wrought iron door with the bars in front and that kind of decorative, the decorative imagery, and then the like the screening that's just more harsh, the iron screening. It's just typical in climates like Tucson, Arizona. I live in Dallas, and a lot of the doors are like that. And, one verbiage that some of us use for doors like that is, depending on how we use the doors, we called it speakeasy doors. Because depending on how big our screen door was and how much air we wanted through it. So we called it speakeasy doors, just because of those bars through it and how much air we wanted through it when we opened so we would have the screen door. And then because the house is over here, everything's bigger in Dallas, the bigger the hair, the closer to God, the bigger everything, close, all of that, right? So a lot of people in the nicer house, the bigger houses would have the wrought iron screen doors, and they would be very secured looking. And so people can't look in, but we could look out. So it's a design. It's designed that way to look very, like jail-like, or like the bars and all that, just for the people that are, on the outside looking in. But when you're inside the house and you want to look out, you can see everything. You want to be able to see who's walking by and who's driving by, and you just want to get the air through, and, you know, um, a draft through the house. And that's really what I believe her door was, because I'm very familiar with the doors like hers. And I live, not my house right now, but I've only, right before this house, I had a door just like that. And it was just our breezeway door. It was just like our screen door, but it was a very solid door because of the area we lived in, the cost of the house, the design of the house. Some people want their front door to line up with their back door for the feng shui, you know, uh, north south, stuff like that. All of that made sense to me. I never for a minute thought that she had some security gate door. Never, ever, ever. So, alongside with that, what I'd like to say is um, that also what's been said along with that is that it had to have been locked and there's a separate key for it. I do agree that there is a separate key for it. I don't disagree with that. And that Miss Nancy could have, maybe locked it at some point or whatnot. Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know her life. She's been there for over 50 years. I'm sure that door has been locked, and that's why a key exists for it. But do I think that it was typically locked day to day? No, I don't. I think that the screen door, which now is being called this safety gated door, this wrought iron, which I just think it's just a screen door that is looked at differently because of different areas, different states, different, you know, um, area, weather, all of that. Um, so why do I not think that this door was locked naturally for Nancy? Is because we have to remember that upon her abduction, there was an Amazon package on her front step, wasn't there? So, so what we're if she locked it, so we're trying to say that every time she got an Amazon package, she went, Miss 84-year-old Miss Nancy, who we do know she wasn't a great walker, but she had trouble walking, but she was a walker, but she had some issues. So she would go and dig up some key and then open her front door and then find another key to open her screen door just to get a package. Does that really make sense? Or was that screen door always unlocked, just like a lot of our screen doors are naturally easily unlocked? I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out here. So that's that. I really think it was unlocked, and mostly because the Amazon package was there. And yes, we do know that she was dropped off to her garage, and that is an easy point of entrance and exit, but the packages were dropped off up front. So I feel that she always received her packages there, which was a quick means of her grabbing them. For her to grab her packages through the garage was not a quick way. So it makes more sense for her to grab her packages off the front step. And therefore it makes more sense for that screen door to always be unlocked. So, so yeah. Hold on, let me make sure. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to bring up about that. So now it also brings us all back to how everybody feels about where this case is today, right? Like I said from the start, we're at day 45, technically day 46. I mean, it doesn't even seem right. I feel like I'm wrong by it being March 18th. I feel like I should be further along, but we are at a month and a half point right now. and the neighbors are kind of feeling a sense of hopelessness. They're feeling a sense of insecurity. They don't know what the right answer versus the wrong answer is when things just start getting quiet again with searches and questions. Then, like I said, just yesterday, day before, FBI is right back and searching the same areas again. But again, like I tried explaining, it's not a bad thing for them to go to step one, because you always try to uncover, did you miss something? Because maybe now they have team B, team C looking at stuff, and they're like, hold on, now we got a new set of eyes on it. So let's see what we can find here. We got this guy who's is really good at puzzles, and he's on this team. Just let him figure this out. Maybe he'll be the one to crack it. But we don't know. It's just it does for me. It kind of, I felt that, once we got to March 1st and I saw that mainstream media was, leaving and kind of dissipating, and then the creators were kind of going away. And then once they were finally gone, but I mean, there's still some locals over there. And then to see even like real, like News Nation and like Nancy Grace, all of them really not even knowing themselves, like they're all throwing their hands up in the air and going, what is going on? They're trying to get their best investigators, their best sources on air to ask questions, to even get their best assessments on what's up. I mean, I can't give you my best assessment when they can't. Like I'm pulling from what their thoughts are, and I'm making my best thought off of that. Like, I don't know. It sucks. Do I wish I could be back out there and figuring and knocking on doors and asking questions myself? Absolutely. I wish I could. I don't have the means. I really wish I did. So with that being said, that's all I got on the Nancy Guthrie case. That brings us to a new case that we just started covering as Crime Scene Collective tonight. It is about a 20-year-old student he lives in Chicago, Illinois. He's a student attending University of Alabama. I guess we call it Alabama, or just apostrophe Bama, or else it'll get confused. That's just what I've been taught tonight. He goes by James, quotations, Jimmy Gracey. So probably goes by Jimmy Gracey. So maybe a junior there. He's a 20-year-old college student, a junior of University of Alabama. He disappeared during a spring break trip to Barcelona, Spain. So he was last seen around 3 a.m. at a beachfront nightclub called, and I don't know how to pronounce it, Shoko. It's Shoko. And his friends, he went there with some friends, and his friends left earlier. He stayed. But now what we do know is that he was seen off of some CCTV footage that he left with somebody else. Well, because we do know that his friends left earlier, and then the CCTV footage shows him leaving later on that evening with somebody else. What I cannot get confirmation on is, did he leave with just one person, a group of other people, a female, male? That's just something that is not coming out yet. Maybe by the time that I'm saying this, it has come out. I really don't know. So that's that. So he never made it. So they had an Airbnb for this spring break. He never made it back. But another like oddity on this is that his phone, right? Everybody has their phones. And guess what? His phone is missing, but suddenly who gets it? The police in Barcelona. They have hands on his phone, and they literally have it. And so now it's like, how did they get his phone? And so now the police is saying, and this is through his mom, like Jimmy Gracey's own mother is posting this online, and she is saying that apparently somebody stole Jimmy's phone and they were able to track down the person that stole his phone, and that is how they tracked down his phone. But the person that stole his phone has nothing to do with his abduction or his disappearance or anything like that. It's unrelated. We've heard that, never. So that's all I'm going to say on that. So we do know that his parents and two of his uncles are now in Barcelona, Spain, working with authorities to figure out what's up, what's going on. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, this is brand new. And so I do have a group for this, and it's James, Jimmy, Gracey missing, and or it's James, Jimmy, Gracey, and then it's like parentheses, Alabama student missing. Case discussion might say Barcelona, but make sure that we are the admins. Make sure you look for Crime Scene Collective and the Howling Wolf with the yellow moon. Otherwise, I can't be responsible for what happens to you in that group. And also, of course, we do have a Nancy Guthrie page, and it is Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mom missing, case discussion. Same thing. Make sure we are the admins. Otherwise, I can't be responsible for anything that happens for you. I guess that wraps it up for tonight. And I will be back hopefully in a couple of days with more updates, hopefully on James, Jimmy, Gracey, because let's just hope this isn't another Riley Strain situation. Another thing that's interesting with his case is that there is a large body of water next to where he went missing. So could it be? I mean, could it be the same kind of thing where he just went running off and fell into this body of water? I had pictures here, but I have no idea where I put my stuff, so I don't want to walk away again. But I did have it. So anyway, yeah, like, could it have happened the same thing as the Riley Strain? But then we have other people saying that there's a group of women that are, putting the roofies in men's drinks that they feel that are tourists and stuff like that. But we heard the same thing with the Riley Strain case. So, I mean, we don't know. We don't know until we know. So let's stay vigilant. And if you see something, say something. And until then, have a good night. And please don't forget to like us, subscribe to us, follow us, and all of that. Thank you for watching me, and like that live, share it, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And good night, everybody.